Hi, welcome back to my channel. And today I'm going to discuss with you a little bit about the product analytics. So it's going to be a very brief lecture on how to transform the raw data, what to focus in order to read the really insightful report in Power BI. So, what do we have for the data gap as of nowadays? We know that we use a lot of data that's been generated daily. And so we do have the problem. We have the problem when making the reports that our Excel reports are getting very slow and they're not making it, to prepare all the reports based on the data has been so much of data being generated every millisecond. And so, of course, those Excel reports are not deep enough. They're not supporting the real-time decision making. So the goal would be, in order to close this data gap, is to transition to dynamic, automatic, and interactive dashboards where we support with the support of the live data updates. And of course, the impact would be is enabling the rapid data-driven decisions that directly would be influencing our competitive positioning and also the revenue. So we go further, and so in our today's tutorial, we'll be discussing two tools, SQL and Power BI, and the one pipeline where we would be using, those two tools for the decision making as a data analyst, right? So SQL, we use the SQL, the programming language, when we do have the examination of the historical data. We need to find the patterns, the trends, get those, get that information about the insights for the past performance. And finally, the Power BI would be used as a visualization tool for the reports, where we would be turning the query results that we got through SQL and turn them into interactive stories to present for the stakeholders. So, how do we engineer the data with SQL? We do have the specific commands, right? It's CTs where we have those, select, update, insert different, table commands, expressions, and also the join, how we join the tables. Those would be, for instance, linking different customers with the products, with sales, the different tables in order to make to bring in one in order to make that analytical data set and further to view it and then review it and get it in the report. Of course, the business logic should be maintained because we calculate the profit margin, year over year growth, and different category level aggregation. And finally, we would be needing clean pipelines. And it's a very organized, well structured queries that eliminates hours of manual spreadsheet manipulations. So, how do we connect and model data in Power BI? So, we know that once we have the SQL, that helps us to clean the data. Power BI would be importing it with a direct SQL Server connection. The Power Query would be the tool, or the part of the tool that would be enabling the data transformation. It's where we clean the data, transform and rename the columns, change the data types. And finally, the results would be demonstrated in different schemas, and we would be using mostly the star schema. And after that, final fast filtering and having this intuitive report navigations. Go further, we need to, after all, build the dashboards because once we have, without having a dashboard, we are not able to make the decisions. So the executive view would be just a one-page layout that would be surfaced, top-level KPI reviews, margins, and different units would be sold at a glance, for instance, right? So that would be, we would be viewing the dashboards already from the executive view in order, to make the information, to make the decision about the information being presented. Then we'll be using the interactive slicers, it's the bar charts for the revenue trends that would be paired with slicers that would be letting stakeholders drill into, for instance, the region and the product and time period. And finally, the moment when we get this pattern already revealed, And for instance, we would be already seeing the top selling product, the company, manufacturing company, and that would be already fully view without cluttering the main view. So that would be the main point, or the main things about what we would be using in order to build the dashboard. We go ahead and see what would be our analytical features, because when we do the analytics, right, we need to have the deeper insights to the data that we're having. And of course, the first would be having those DAX calculation. DAX calculations are data analytics expressions. It helps us to custom the formulas for different metrics like year-over-year growth, for instance, driving to run the totals that go beyond the different standard aggregations. Then having those RLS, row level security, if we have this, for instance, the restricting data access. So, for instance, the regional manager would be seeing only information that relates to them, right? And that would be the automatic data review. And finally, the performance optimization. It's when we have this ability to aggregate the table, query, folding, in order to keep those reports fast, even as data scales to millions of rows. So those are three main features. So getting into beyond the numbers, what the numbers say us. Numbers should say us, for instance, we have a specific case, it needs to, with the use of different charts and different visuals, right, the graphs, to show us the inclines or the declines of the purchases, of the consumer behavior, that would be just, for instance, triggering the customer retention initiatives. And of course, about the proactive engagement, because we have this analysis, cohort analysis, in order to identify the most frequent, for instance, buyers, the most profitable purchases, and then we would be personalizing the outreach before the customer churn. And finally, closing the loop, answering the main questions, how we move from what happened status, which is the descriptive, to the prescriptive, what should we do? And that's where the analytics create the real value. Getting to the impact story, we need to have the story. So why we do these analytics? Of course, in order to create the story and the compelling story. And what we include into this compelling story is the daily metrics, business KPIs, and investment decisions. So in daily metrics, we would be using the product level signals, for instance, retention, feature usage, activation, and business KPIs. There's, for instance, different the returns, customer churns, and finally, we would be aggregating or accumulating that data or that information in order to make the investment decisions. It would be vetted, outcome focused insights that would be enabling confident investment or even divest the further calls. So I would love to say thank you for your attention. I do appreciate it. We will see you in a different topics that would be again dedicated to analytics. I promise I would be making more tutorials and short videos or reels, so you get more information about analytics and the products. Have a wonderful day. Bye.